It is 6:33. Welcome to April 23rd, 2025, Parks and Recreation Committee meeting. This is a hybrid meeting with commissioners, city staff, and members of the public participating remotely at the Orlando Family Recreation Center. In accordance with public health guidelines for in-person meetings and members of the public participating remotely. I would like to introduce the commissioners present. Commissioner Kevin Wilkins, Commissioner Joseph Grass, Vice Chair Warren Lee, Commissioner Justin Van Buren, and myself, Chair Johnson. I'd like to also introduce staff present, Library and Community Services Director Sean Reiner, Library and Community Services Assistant Director Nick Zegda, Library and Community Services Supervisor Nolan, Management Analyst Ashley Walker, and Recreation Coordinator Harrison Lee. Ashley, can you help us? Will help facilitate the meeting. Ashley, will you please take a moment to provide instructions to the commission and members of the public on how the meeting will proceed?
Yes, thank you, Chair. For members of the public who are attending this meeting virtually and wish to provide public comment, after the chair calls for public comment on the item you wish to speak on, please engage the raise hand feature at the bottom of your screen. For those who are calling in from a landline or cell phone, please press *9 to raise your virtual hand. For members of the public attending in person, there are speaker cards available on the table. Please complete one and turn it in to staff before public comment is called for the item you wish to speak on. If there are a large number of public commenters, the time limit may be adjusted by the chair in order to allow everyone a chance to comment. When your turn for public comment is arrived, staff will unmute you. And with that, I'll return the meeting to the chair.
Under public comment, public may address the commission on any subject not listed on the agenda. Each speaker may address the commission once under public comment for a limit of 3 minutes. Please clearly state your name, address, political jurisdiction in which you live. The commission cannot act on items not listed on the agenda. Therefore, the commission cannot respond to non-agenda issues brought under public comment, other than to provide general information. Actually, do we have any public comments?
Are there any public comments for items not on the agenda? No public comment.
First, item D1, approve the minutes of the meeting for March 26, 2025. Actually, do we have any public comments on this item?
Are there any public comments on item D1 to approve the meeting minutes from the March 26, 2025 meeting? No public comments.
Thank you. That public comment is closed. Would the commissioner like to make a motion to approve the minutes?
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second. There's a motion to approve the meeting minutes from the March 26, 2025 meeting. Commissioner Dawkins, how do you vote?
Approve.
Commissioner Grass?
Approve.
Chair Joshua?
Approve.
Vice Chair Lee?
Approve.
And Commissioner Van Buren?
Approve.
The motion passes.
Next item D2, select a new chair and vice chair. I think staff has a few comments on this procedures.
Are there any public comments on item D2 to select a new chair and vice chair? No public comment.
Thank you. That public comment is closed. We will now open for commission discussion.
I'll just make a few introductory comments if I might, the chair. So the rota that we have set up follows the same way that the city council selects mayor and vice mayor, that it just sort of rotates amongst the commission members. The longest serving member who has not served as a chair is chair, or the vice chair becomes chair, and then the longest serving member who has not been chair or vice chair becomes vice chair. In the case of the Parks and Rec Commission, that would mean that Vice Chair Lee would rotate into the chair position, and that either Commissioner Grass or Commissioner Hens, both being on at the same time, would rotate into the vice chair position. And that's all. But you could choose, that's just the road that we have set up, because it.
Does anyone have any objections to following the road? To follow this procedure? Okay. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think it's an outstanding question, right? Well, I mean, Commissioner Evans is in here.
Right. Right. I think that's all that.
Right, and just for our understanding, I think, Chair Joshua, you are stepping down, is that?
Yes.
Okay. I guess the one thing I would say is, I mean, this is a public service position, so if you feel like you wanna dedicate a lot of effort to this, then by all means, please run for chair. This is all, by the good graces of us trying to make them park a better place, so, feel free to nominate yourself if you'd like.
Actually, I'd like to make a motion to nominate Vice Chair Lee for chair, if you accept.
I accept.
Anybody? We have a second.
I'll second that.
Sorry. Very funny.
Would you like to vote on that or make a motion for vice chair?
Yeah, I will motion for Joseph Kratz to be nominated as vice chair.
Second.
I'm sorry, I couldn't see the second. Okay. So there is a motion to make vice chair lead chair and to make Commissioner Grass vice chair. Commissioner Dawkins, how do you vote?
Approve, vote for.
Commissioner Grass,
Yes.
Chair Joshua,
Approve.
Vice Chair Lee,
Yes.
and Commissioner Van Buren.
Approve.
The motion passes. Congratulations.
Next item on the agenda, the three requests for proposals for park ranger services. Do we have a presentation on the subject?
We do a brief presentation. Ashley, do you want to drive or would you like me to drive the pre-speech?
Try.
I can drive or you can drive.
I can do
You can drive. Okay. No, I'll stand. Yes. I don't really feel like it's necessary to stand. Give Ashley a second.
one.
Pull it up. Maybe in this, oh, I'm saying I was just about to make a statement. Yeah, make a statement. All right, here we go.
It's thinking.
It's all right. It's moving at about my speed, so that's perfectly fine. Thank you, commissioners. So the item before you is seeking some feedback on a draft request for proposals for ranger services. Sticky, it's okay. A little bit of background. Hopefully the background slide will come up while I'm giving you a little background. It's okay, Ashley. It's fine. Here we go. There we go. So the current provider of the contractor who provides ranger services at Bedwell Bayfront Park and a little bit at Kelly Park is called Explore US. They were formerly California Land Management, and then the company was bought by Explore US in the last couple of months. They've been doing the ranger services there for quite some time. They began in 1983 and ran up to 2011. In 2011, in an effort to sort of save costs, the Public Works Department, which has managed the contract for the ranger services, went to a company that did basically just sort of janitorial services for the restrooms and also unlocked and opened the gate and locked the gate at night. The Bedwell Bayfront Park master plan process brought forth a lot of public comments asking for the ranger services to be reinstated. That was in 2017. So in 2019, the service was reinstated. They had an initial 3-year contract and have been doing year-to-year extensions since then. The contract expires at the end of June. However, we're going to extend that by a couple of months to allow for the RFP process to play out. And its services right now at the service level that we have cost about $150,000 a year. So here are the current duties for the ranger. They open and close the park gate, so when the gate opens, I think it's at sunrise and closes at sunset, so that time varies by year. They patrol the park, they collect litter, they contact the public and perform code enforcement, mostly with off-leash dogs and with parking problems. They also provide or are contracted to provide fire suppression, though the rangers are not sworn officers in any way, so they don't do sort of law enforcement, and they would contact emergency services if something really bad happened. In the RFP, we are proposing a little bit of expanded duties, not only doing the code enforcement, but also some policy enforcement and some public education components. We were thinking of things like a ranger talk or a tour at Bedwell Bayfront Park, for instance, and also basic first aid. So the hours vary by season. The parks get used less in the winter when the days are shorter. They get used more in the summer when kids are out of school and the days are longer. You can see on this slide, I have a sample of the July hours, a week in July and a week in November. And you can see Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in July, they're doing 5 hours a day. 4 hours at Bedwell Bayfront Park and then an hour at Kelly. And then on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, they're doing 8 hours, 7 hours at Bedwell and an hour at Kelly. And if you look at the November, they're only doing 4 hours a day for the week. I will point out that we also do ask the ranger contractor to provide service on 8 holidays. And 4th of July is one of the holidays. So we have a list of city approved holidays and we arrange with them to do 8 of those. So, please. Sorry. Yes,
So is it one ranger that spends the first chunk of the day at the first park and then go for the last hour of the second park?
correct, correct. And that is a change to the original agreement. The original agreement was just for Bedwell Bayfront Park. But during the construction of the Bellhaven Community Campus, the park, Kelly Park, was kind of cut off from the front, which used to have like more activity, and you could see from the parking lot through to Kelly Park, and you couldn't during the construction. And so we were getting some reports of misbehavior back in Kelly Park, and so we were having the ranger just be sort of an official presence there for an hour a day. It probably wasn't enough, but that's what we could do with the contract that we had. So in the draft RFP that we're asking you to provide comment on, we're proposing or we're asking for proposers to give us 3 levels of service, a quote for 3 levels of service. One would be basically mostly status quo with what we're doing now at Bedwell Bayfront Park and Kelly. Service level 2 would add some service at an additional park, and service level 3 would add service at a second park. So that would be 3 parks in total for service level 3. Here's a tentative schedule for the request for proposals. We're proposing to have a meeting where potential bidders could ask us questions at the end of May. When they ask questions, the answers we sort of publicly put back out there. That way we're not giving an unfair advantage to the people who ask questions. Everybody gets the answers. Then the proposals due in June, interviews of contractors if needed in July, a review by the Parks and Rec Commission later in July, and then council award and approval of a contract in August. So what are we asking you? And here are some of the things that we'd like you to weigh in on. Is the scope of work that we're asking of the contractors, of the proposers, is that appropriate to what the level of service need is? Are there services that could be added or removed from that scope of work? Are there parks, particular parks that you would like to see added or removed? What are the times of day and days of the week in your experience that you've been hearing about issues at parks? And which parks need those ranger services more? And then just sort of an open-ended question, if you have any other thoughts or feedback related to this contracting this service, or the RFP itself. Maybe we leave that one up, Ashley, because that's the end of my presentation. After we take a public comment, happy to hear any questions and have a discussion, and I'll sit back down. So
Thanks, Nick. Ashley, any public comment there?
Are there any public comments on item D3, request for proposals for park ranger services? No public comment.
With that, we will close the public comment. The item is now open to commission staff.
Oh, so I'm sure you have an opinion, so like, if they did start level 3. Obviously you would target Bayfront, but like, what are the other two?
well, from what? Okay. Go ahead, John.
I did want to add one thing, great presentation, one thing that wasn't mentioned, is that, the city would rotate those parks on a seasonal basis. Right, so like with the first service level enhancement, it would be Bedwell Bayfront Park plus one additional park,
You could,
which would rotate for same thing with on the second level. So in theory, it could encompass
More
all of the parks.
I thought it was blocks too, got it. Thank you.
So I have a question. I think it's a great idea to have, like, to add 2 more parks and rotate. Who would be in charge of, who would communicate to the ranger which park we'd like them to focus on? And I think it's a great idea. If we had something going on at one park, we could redirect the ranger to that park.
It would be us, it would be our staff, and in particular, it would be Harrison, the rec coordinator in charge of outdoor recreation sports. So he would be working closely with whichever contractor was awarded the contract.
Right now, I think that's a great idea, especially in Harrison, you know what's going on. You can see the Acton Menlo Park tickets and see if there's trouble in a particular park and send the ranger in. So, you know, great. And there's never big trouble in Menlo Park, but I mean, things I've noticed are whatever, dogs off leash or parking issues, people parking where they shouldn't be, or and the other issue, tennis courts, sometimes on weekends, there are tennis instructors that are taking up all the court. Yeah, maybe we could feedback things to you as well, except for ideas we have, but that's just off the top of my head. I'd also like to hear just at this meeting occasionally just reports of how things are going in the parks, like what issues we've been seeing and what the ranger sees, just to give us some feedback.
Yeah, we do require in the current agreement that the ranger provide a written report monthly of their contacts at the parks. So that would be something that we could easily share out to the commission. Sort of the same way that we share out the suggestion box suggestions, like here are the things that have come up in the parks that are reported by rangers.
I have a question on the additional items that you added to the responsibility for the provider. Was there any input from the current provider on those additional responsibilities?
Not yet, because we haven't released the RFP yet, but so one of the challenging things is that there are not a lot of companies that provide this service. So talking to the Public Works Department, who've been managing this contract for years, the last time they did an RFP, which is in 2019, so 5 years ago, they contacted City of San Jose. San Jose has city employees. I think they're sworn park rangers. They contacted San Diego County. They contacted the state, the Park Service for the state, So they contacted several other ranger organizations, and nobody else bid on that contract, as I understand it, except for Explore US or California Land Management. Explore US is a private company that does a lot of work with both state and national parks. So they're a nationwide company. They do a lot of things, like they do concessions, they do support services, and they do some of these ranger services.
So they would say, we have examples by president per se, that would be a requirement.
Right, yeah, it would be basic first aid. It wouldn't be like, I would say it would probably be maybe even less than the lifeguard training gets, but like a basic outdoor first aid. I would think tick removal, scrapes, things like that. Sunburn, anything that sort of rose above that threshold, they would just contact emergency services.
And I think I noticed in your report, you were mentioning the ranger might do tours. I don't know if they currently do that, but like especially at Bedwell. I spent a lot of time at Bedwell doing like wildlife photography. The place is just out of this world. It's amazing. I think even better than Palo Alto Baylands if you want to be competitive. Just kidding. But no, like one day I photographed 10 different species of birds from them. Like it's just an amazing place. So having someone give tours would really, and just maybe post on a piece of paper, you know, or have a weekly tour or two while they're patrolling would be great, because the place is just an amazing resource for wildlife.
Yeah, agree. Actually, in the Bedwell Bayfront Park master plan, there was a projection that a sort of ranger hutch be built. So where the ranger could kind of hang out and people would know where the ranger was when they weren't on patrol, which would help and increase that contact. And I agree, there's a lot of resources with the big trail now that has been improved. What's the official name of that?
Flyway trail.
The Flyway Trail. So there's some more sort of interpretive signage out there. It would be great if the ranger could provide those sort of interpretive services, but that might also be something that staff could provide, so we'd have to look into that. I would think we might do it as like programming, like a nature walk or things like that.
I do like the idea for a hutch. I mean, the educational little outpost that they have in Baylands is very nice. Having a better one for Menlo Park would be ideal. I like the education addition. I think that should absolutely be a requirement. My question is, actually for you, and you can Harrison, you can respond in a professional manner. Personally, do you have any feelings towards the other parks in Menlo Park, and which parks would benefit more from ranger patrol?
I mean, for me personally, I haven't, I'm just getting introduced to the project, but I think realistically, we would probably just look at the parks that have the most usage rate, have the most visitors, and kind of, probably follow that model, and realistically look at which parks have the most usage, which parks have the most visitors, and maybe prioritize those in terms of like the first group of rotating parks. But like I said, I'm a little bit new to the project, so.
And just to build on that, I think the PRC has, you know, over time, with a few were mentioned tonight, you know, some issues that sort of happen out in the parks. For example, dogs off leash, people not using like dog park correctly, unauthorized users of facilities such as like tennis courts that are sort of taken over by instructors that where they shouldn't. It hasn't been as much of an issue lately, but especially during the construction of the Bellhaven Community Campus, where a lot of unauthorized users at Kelly Park made it, you know, so that people could use the field. So, you know, when you think about the different parks that we would likely focus on right out of the gate, like Milan Park comes to mind, kind of immediately, it's the second largest park after this one here in Burgess Park. Burgess Park is not the question either, because although we do have a lot of staff here, we don't necessarily have someone who's specifically that kind of patrolling the outdoor areas, like, you know, this big skate park here, or something like that. So those two come to mind right away.
I know.
Another would then be Little Oaks, because there are tennis courts and a dog park and a playground there. And sometimes there've been conflicts, although it's been less lately, between like dog owners and parents of small children, and the dogs being off leash and sort of impacting, you know, just sort of the children's enjoyment of the park. So those are some areas we focus on. However, there are a number of smaller parks that really don't get a lot of presence.
Mhm.
And so we want to I think the idea of having that rotational model is that ultimately the ranger would go to all of the parks, at least at some point over a 1 or 2 year period.
Great. I know Nealon was one of the ones I thought of instantly because they do have the field that is dual use and it's a dog park some hours and then it is, I think like the softball field or the other hours. So I know that it has been a point of issue perhaps. Another question, and this might go back to previous RFP in 2019, but when looking at these different ranger services offered at the time, San Jose as their sworn officers, et cetera. Were there other, aside from the new proposals, were there any other services that were offered by other ranger departments that?
Well, there's,
stuck out?
I mean, I was just looking at what, like, the city of San Jose does, what the
Yeah.
city of Palo Alto does, because Palo Alto has Foothills Park, which is a big park. And they do a lot of what you would think of as more kind of traditional, national park kind of things, like trail maintenance and campsite services. Since we don't have, campsites, and we do have trails, but the trails are maintained to the extent that they're maintained by our public works department.
Okay.
Bedwell Bayfront is really the only sort of quasi wilderness kind of park in our portfolio of parks. The other ones are more like city parks or southern parks, so we don't really have that. Tricia, do you remember any sort of services? And they do provide like ranger talks, the fireside ring kind of thing, and interpretive tours at different times of the year. Foothills Park, like the Baylands, they both have like small buildings that are like little museums and have the restrooms and things like that in the ranger station. So they have kind of gathering places for those kinds of interpretive programs. I was just wondering if you knew of anything else, other kinds of things that rangers provide, and it's the kind of things you would think of.
Yeah.
I did a little bit of research at one point, and there's different levels of authority that they have, right? So it depends on the type of authority that they obtain or asked to have, the citing, the citations, and some are actually able to carry. So it really just depends on the scope. I don't think we're going to that route, but yeah.
And there is a Friends of the Bedwell Bayfront Park organization. To my knowledge, they don't really do a whole lot. I think they probably have, I think they have, like cleanup days. And I think maybe once or twice a year, they might do like interpretive tours around the park. But it would be good to sort of reconnect with them and kind of try to see if we could get involved in some of our activities, especially in Bedwell.
Or if they have any other suggestions for services.
That's a good idea.
I imagine that they know the park better than anyone else.
That's a really good idea.
Wonderful, thank you for your answers.
But I just want to comment also, I like the idea of including having somebody rotate through all the parks is a great, really, to get some more public engagement with the city, and then people can talk to the ranger, and then we can hear from the ranger what people are saying, and it's just a way to communicate to us. So I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, I think, some of the idea of sort of reorganizing in the department to sort of, indoor or moving away from kind of facility. Sort of dividing up the services by facility and now sort of thinking of this indoor sports and outdoor sports. Is that we could have staff be more of a presence outdoors in parks and things like that, so.
Or they could wear a uniform, that would be great. We were talking about that earlier.
The hats, yes, I think the hats, we were getting very excited about hats.
Yeah, no, I mean, because then people will know you're a city official, they can approach you and engage with you in a nice way.
There you go.
But,
We'll have to talk to Harrison about what his uniform preferences would be,
yeah,
or hat preference.
I mean, just the ranger with a uniform is.
Yes,
people know to approach
absolutely,
them.
absolutely. That is a real benefit of having ranger service is that it is an official figure, right? That is somebody who you can go to and ask questions, somebody if you're having a problem of some sort, you can reach out to, but also just by their uniform presence, it kind of tamps down some behavior, hopefully.
Just one quick thought, if you don't know that, sorry. If the rangers swap parks every quarter, then the public will know that they're at that park for that quarter. And then when they leave, they might lapse in their adherence to park policy and regulation. Would it be possible to have different parks and have a random number generator to spit out a different park for each day of the week to keep people on their toes? So that they're more likely to keep their dogs on leashes because the ranger could be there at any time.
Yeah, that's a good question. This is really good feedback because the frequency of the rotation is something we are kind of wondering about. On the one hand, it'd be great to just like say, go here, go there. On the other hand, we know that when they're formulating responses to the RFP, they need to factor in that they have to provide their own gasoline, their own vehicles, divide up the person's time. So if maybe quarterly is not frequent enough for us, and maybe something more like monthly would be a little bit more frequent, but give them the ability to plan. Plus, I don't know if there's a whole quarter's worth of work at, say, Stanford Hills Park or something like that. So, sort of based on that question, maybe we should tweak that frequency to be a little bit more, to hit more parks, maybe for shorter periods of time. We can always have a stay, like if Milan's there's just a lot happening 3 months straight, then, just keep them in Milan, but otherwise we can do another park for a month.
Thank you. Question, but as part of RFP, is there any provision for, asking that we have a consistent ranger? Because in the worst case, maybe we just get like a different temp ranger every week or something, right? So it'd be nice to have one consistent ranger assigned to Menlo Park, or as little turnover as possible, so they get to know the city, get to know the park.
Sure, we can write that in somehow.
Yeah, like
It's reasonable, like, our strong preferences for.
Yeah.
Consistent ranger or set of rangers and not have a vehicle. Because there's some orientation that we have to do, right, to the ranger.
Yeah, it'd be nice to establish a relationship with a small set of rangers and also the company as well, so.
I do think that generally it's been the same ranger, my understanding, although, if there's turnover, that's what happens, but they're not assigning a different person from a pool, as far as I know, it's been kind of the one person.
Great.
I guess I just had a question to just clarify the role. You had mentioned that janitorial services were previously supplied by the contractor. Does that mean they're, cleaning the restrooms as well? Is that
Yes.
okay?
They clean the restroom. That's actually a pretty standard task for park rangers as a job classification, like they do clean restrooms.
Okay.
Yeah, and empty garbage. The city's public works department collects the garbage and takes it away to throw it away, but they go around to the different receptacles and change them out.
And like pick up loose.
Yep,
garbage.
yeah, with a trash picker, yep.
And also like dog waste, all that.
I don't know about the dog waste, but we can ask about it.
I think dog waste was definitely highlighted as like a big problem in previous meetings. I mean, I step in it unfortunately every other week, so it's really something. I wish something was done about that. Okay.
Well, I know when we had talked to Doug Monterosa, who's our parks supervisor, he was saying that one of the problems that Public Works had with installing more dog waste bag stations in parks was keeping up with them and making sure they were filled and things like that. So that could be another thing that we could ask the ranger to do, is to check on those dog bag stations to make sure that they're stocked.
Yeah, I think that if that kind of solves the problem, that was just another line item, that'd be perfect.
And then, of course, we have to see what the bids are that come back, what the price is, and where that fits with our budget.
And just another point of clarification, so the park ranger is not responsible for landscaping duties whatsoever.
No, they're not mowing the grass, they're not maintaining the trails.
But they take the garbage from the pails and take it away to some designated location
Yeah, there's like a pickup location behind the.
for all parks.
No, just for the parks that they're contracted to serve right now, which are Bedwell, Bayfront, and Kelly.
Okay, but what if they do this rotation?
So yeah, on that, what we would wanna do is, especially if they're assigned to a park like say, Run or even bridges that has like picnic areas. Those can get, like the garbage can kind of get piled usually over the weekend. So that's when they're assigned to those parks, I think it would be great. To have them, especially on like Sunday evening, Monday morning, if they're there, to go ahead and gather that up. Our public works department still services those parks, but it's extra capacity because the receptacles do overflow.
Yeah, I've definitely seen that, especially take your kids to the playground on Sunday and there's like pizza boxes from Saturdays. So there's-
Yeah, they're actually so Burgess Park, for instance, is serviced by Recology. And they don't pick up on the weekend, so that's why it does, and I see it in Kelly as well. On Monday at Kelly Park, the trash cans are really full, especially if there's been a soccer tournament or something over the weekend, so our PW crew will, if they see it overflowing. Call Recology, pick up what's sort of loose around, but it would help, a ranger would help a lot.
At least to get the loose material, get it back, get it stowed, so that at least the cans are, available. Bring it on this evening.
Any other questions, comments? In that case, we'll move to the next item, which is item G1, city budget process update.
So this is just one of the informational items, it's just kind of there for your awareness of what the budget process entails. Happy to answer any questions if you have them, you can just provide this information.
After we have any public comments on this item,
Are there any public comments on item E1, the city budget process update? No public comment?
thank you. That public comment is closed and we will open the item for commission discussion.
So. Our well-used facility.
That will move to the next item, which is item E2, commission attendance report. This is regarding report cards.
This is just a standard thing, the city clerk keeps track of the attendance, there are some minimum attendance requirements in the commission handbook. And it's just so that if there came a point where there was a problem with attendance, that the council could point to the attendance report and perhaps replace the commissioner. In my time working with commissions, I have seen that happen. And the commission has been really good about letting us know. That's why Tricia sends out polls. Are you able to make it? Are you not able to make it? And we would consider those, I'm not able to make it, I'm traveling, as sort of excused absences. So the idea here is not to point the finger at commissioners, but just to relay this information as the city clerk is relaying it up to the city council.
Ashley, do we have any public comment on the item?
Are there any public comments on item E2? No public comment.
Thank you. That public comment is closed, and we open the item for commission discussion. Any questions or?
I think we should have looked at this before we appointed the chair and vice chair.
Okay, we'll move on to item E3. Library and community services for statistics and recent activity.
Okay, so in your packet is the data for March, and those statistics. This data helps inform decision-making for the department. And then as far as suggestion boxes, we do collect suggestions from a physical box and electronic feedback. And then we do respond to any feedback that is received, and those that the compilation is in your packet. Additionally, Youth Advisory Committee is now accepting applications. The Youth Advisory Committee advises the Parks and Recreation Commission on matters related to youth and teens in Menlo Park. This may include topics such as safety, community involvement, special interest, recreation, sports, socialization, socioeconomic and environmental concerns. We are now accepting applications for anyone enrolled in grades 9 through 12 that either live within Menlo Park city limits or attend school in Menlo Park. And applications are being accepted until June 13th online, and the term is for 1 year from September to May. Students should demonstrate leadership in school and community activities, express an interest in advising city council and staff on teen issues, be willing to commit about 8 hours per month, and be able to commit to at least a 1 year term. Additionally, youth poetry voices, April is National Poetry Month, and youth are invited to join the City of Menlo Park Library and Menlo Park Library Foundation for the annual Menlo Park Youth Poetry Voices exhibition. This is for first grade through 12th graders, and they will have an opportunity to share their original poetry at a reception hosted by the library, and their work will be published in a commemorative anthology to be displayed at the local authors collection in the library. And finally, they will be invited to present their poems directly to City Council. Submissions are being accepted online between April 1 to April 30. Egg Hunt and Spring Fest. The Egg Hunt and Spring Fest occurred here at the Burgess Park on April 19th. As of the 17th, there were about 700 people registered for the Egg Hunt. There was about, I was not able to attend.
About
15.
2,200.
Okay, 2,200 in attendance. The Egg Hunt was organized by age groups. We did recognize the need for more of the younger age groups. Also featured a petting zoo, photos with the Big Bunny, children's crafts, and related attractions. There was registration this year for the Egg Hunt. It was free to residents and $5 for non-residents. And then finally, aquatic fee increases on April 15th. The City Council held a public hearing to consider an increase to the aquatic fees and amendment to the aquatics operator agreement. After discussion, City Council approved the proposed increase to non-resident fees. And there was further feedback and suggestions about the remaining proposals. The action is being deferred on the proposals in recognition that not all 5 council members were in attendance. And we will be returning with that item. That concludes the report.
Actually, do we have any public comment on the same?
Are there any public comments on item E3? No public comment.
Thank you with that. We, public comment is closed and we will open the item for commission discussion.
Oh. I have three quick questions. Number one, just out of my own curiosity, do we know if the acres is split between resident and non-resident?
It was primarily resident. As far as the registrants are concerned, I don't think there were very many non-resident registrants, but I don't have the exact numbers.
We can get that, as of like a week before the event, we had about 50 non-resident registrants out of about, there were like 600 at that time. So, you know, an appreciable number, but definitely as like a minority.
Yeah. And then for the GAG, so you said, so I was just looking, so on the website, it says you must be a resident of Menlo Park, but you said or attending school here.
Correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
Got it. And then my last question was, do we have an update on when? Yeah. We can get the required pay increases back in front of city council, because I wanted to take. That company's concerns seriously and not act on their concerns.
Yeah, we're going back in May 15th or 16th.
May 13th.
13th, great, thank you. May 13th, with the additional items from the agreement, the updates to the agreement, to propose that to council.
I think that's the very next time that all 5 council members will be in attendance, because the meeting on the 29th, next week, there will be 4.
And there was about the last meeting and one council member was absent, so it's like a 2-2 vote or something. So, yeah,
Correct, exactly.
yeah, I just want to add my comment to that also. I really hope we can get a fee increase through and or I don't know how this we could make this come back, but I would like to see the city even kick in some financial support. Because you could on one hand say, okay, we have to get more out of the Menlo Swim and Sport, but on the other hand, we do have a low enrollment going on in East Menlo Park, and I really think we have a responsibility for those people to make sure that we get the swim program off the ground there. And we've had this beautiful, $60 million rec center, and the pool is like a really pivotal part of it. And I think we really have to learn to adapt to the community and give Menlo Swim and Sports some time, and then the city really should help out here and not treat this as like, okay, it's the contractor, you do the job. I think we need to work together on that.
So, because the PRC made a recommendation to council back in January 22nd, and Aquatics is part of Parks and Recreation, although we do have a third-party operator. What we staff can do is, May 13th is the date that we're planning to take it back to council. So although we don't always send a note when the city council agenda items are published, maybe in this case, we will just send a note to the commission. It comes out Thursday before, so that date's gonna be around May, something like that. And just so that you can see the report, and of course, city council members, lots of folks often do, once the report comes out, they'll write into the city council to offer their views. So that'll be another opportunity for individual commissioners, to, express some of the things we're hearing, if you choose to do that.
Yeah. So no, I appreciate the detail there. So that'd be really helpful. And I have just a question about the youth advisory committee, since that came up. Actually, thank you, Director Mullen, for setting up the Youth Advisory Commission's charter, or we all got an email on that, Parks and Rec. At some point in the future, I just want to discuss just tweaking that a little bit and asking that Youth Advisory Commission present it as part of the presentation to us. and possibly the city council just give feedback to Parks and Rec Commission on how the city is doing for the youth and maybe be more specific and say, can you give us like, I don't know, 7 items where you think the city can improve, or just give us a general proposal about how you might change things in the city, or what's going well, what's not going well. And maybe we could discuss this at the next meeting with Parks and Rec, but I think the commentary after their presentation last time was like, wow, this is a great resource in front of us, and we want to hear more feedback from them. So any other comments in the commission here?
Was this, yeah,
Yeah.
yes, I would love to see them from us more.
Yeah, and in their, yeah, I'm saying in their presentation, this curriculum is that I asked them as part of the presentation, it prompts them to tell us what's going right, what's not going well with Parks and Rec in the city, and just give us the report, just give us more direct feedback about how things are going.
Right, especially because they're underneath our purview, right? So
Right.
I'd love to see them more.
Yeah, Commissioner Mullen, or sorry, Director Mullen sent out their charter, so we could just add it under the charter, maybe at our next meeting, we can consider.
So it's next month's meeting, and I guess we're getting ahead of ourselves to get a tentative agenda calendar, and maybe we'll come back to it
Sure.
at that.
And one more question, there was discussion about, actually, I think sending me to the Youth Advisory Commission is presenting to the city council next week.
May 13th,
It's May 13th.
it got moved to May 13th.
Okay. Good, my daughter will be relieved because she's on she's head of the presentation committee, so. They're meeting tonight. So I think that there was talk about sending me to the meeting and then possibly speaking for the Parks and Rec Commission. So any suggestions from the Parks and Rec Commission?
Well, under our purview, I think that they would be really impactful voices to contribute also to the library commission in particular. And maybe some of the other commissions, I don't know how important they'd be like CEQA or anything like that, but I think that, you know, I think that, sharing that, some of the other commissions to say would be beneficial. I think I would love to hear more of what they have to say about both Parks and Rec and library services and anything else that feels like a good fit. I know last month, I thought that it might be beneficial to have one of their members or some of their members like sit as like a YAC representative with the council, if that's something we could entertain. Alternatively, they could just present to us more often so that we could allow all of them to simultaneously represent themselves and their voices to us, so we can take their inputs into consideration more often.
If I may chime in, as far as the YAC is concerned, I did talk to one of the sort of YAC advisors today, and she confirmed that the YAC committee has agendized providing a written update to the commission, and that will be included in the department update. So they're actually working on that right now, probably as we speak. So you can look for a section in the department updates from now on that is YAC specific from them.
Very cool. And with that, Joelle?
So it would be in the next month's report. So they're preparing tonight, and then it'll be in the next commission report.
Great, so we're going for that.
Should we share reports with them also? Should they do that? 5 minutes.
Yeah, to second.
Are there any public comments on item E3? You said public comment, right?
That's it.
Oh, and then-
I agree with the topic of it.
Sorry.
So the next item on the agenda is agenda calendar.
Hold that.
So I think we heard have the YAC on the next PRC meeting. So next month's meeting is a joint meeting with the library commission. That I think that agenda is already pretty full with items that both commissions are interested in. So I guess the June meeting, I don't know, could you increase the Zoom a little bit on that, actually?
Yeah, there could be some problems because the term for yak is September through May, so we could get some yak representatives there in June, but we might not get all of them.
But the general discussion,
Oh, I
I think
see.
we're
I see.
hearing was,
Pardon.
should there be a recommended change to their charter? Should there be some very specific direction given to them when they reconvene about how they make their presentations, some other things like that? Possibly expanding their role to advise other commissions or even representative seat. So maybe at the June meeting, we could agendize that, because the city council formed the YAC and assigned it as a subcommittee of the PRC. So ultimately, like a charter type change would probably need to take the form of the PRC making a recommendation to the city council to consider that, when the city council doing that. I think some of the things, like just how they present, doesn't need a charter change necessarily, but something like having them be more dialed in with other commissions probably would. So, looking at June, it kind of does look like there's enough room on the agenda to put that on there.
Sounds great. Yeah.
I think it's getting a little bit ahead of our skis a little bit, but after the RFP process, should we look to get more of it like a technical feedback loop from the ranger? Like in some cadence on some meetings, which I guess we can revisit post RFP process, but
Yeah, good idea.
would be interesting, because then we could influence like the rotation of parks or like. Whatever.
The new ranger? The new ranger?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
we can just RFP
It'd
process.
be nice to meet them, right?
Well, also like more of like a cadence on like a
Yeah.
feedback loop from them. It's like maybe every other meeting, I don't know.
So perhaps that could be added under like unscheduled items for now, so that we don't lose track of it. And then maybe the next meeting or following after the contract, well, the contract award, I think is in August.
Yeah,
Then after that, then, you know, it's there, we can kind of get it on the schedule.
yeah,
Great.
cool, thank you.
Oh, and related to that, I think what's not on here right now is, in the RFP item, on the schedule, there was a PRC check-in in July.
I think it's July.
About the recommendations, like the responses and recommendations, so we'll add that on the July agenda. Which could be a time to also talk a little bit about the desire, like what's that cadence, and, yeah.
Yeah, I do have a question. Maybe I'm imagining things, but last month, did we discuss moving the tennis and pickleball update forward, or was it gonna be touched on with the capital improvement project discussion? I can't remember, but I feel as if we discussed trying to address that before October, but maybe I'm imagining.
That's true. Do you recall, do we want to
Is that something
discuss
that
that now?
would be addressed with capital improvement projects? Because I know that's been, I feel like it's been something that has been continuously being pushed back. So I don't know. Their capacity.
You know, let me just add also, it's like, we were having a review for the master plan. Do we want to have to think about the tennis pickleball approach to the meeting before? And I think you had commented about that before.
Yeah, the two things do sort of go together, the tennis and pickleball update, and the master plan, because you may recall, well, for those commissioners who were serving last year, the PRC made a recommendation to do an addendum to the master plan, to do like a study, like a feasibility study for additional pickleball and tennis courts throughout town. That actually went to the city council. I'm forgetting the exact date it went, but I remember it was last year, fall timeframe sort of. And the city council deferred any action. They said, there's too many other things on the plate, basically, let's not take action on this at this time. And so this October timeframe is around a year later to kind of revisit. Plus, at the time, one of the recommendations that was in the addendum, although it wasn't adopted by the city council, was to at least annually revisit the Parks and Rec Facilities Master Plan at the PRC. PRC can still continue to do that. So I think that's what the timing is. And it's a little difficult to talk when the tennis and pickleball conversation comes up. The main focus has been where to put more court space. And that's just so integrally connected to the overall Park and Rec Facilities Master Plan. It's coming on to have a productive discussion on the topic without considering them together.
Yeah, so I'll take your word for it. So it sounds like that's a good time to put it. We'll discuss a master plan, so that kind of dovetails at that meeting in October.
And in particular, if like the PRC determines at that time, like to maybe bring the addendum concept back for another go with the city council, like, hey, we wanted to sort of bring this back, and it does seem like a year is an appropriate amount of time.
Yeah.
Because the city council already did kind of make a conscious decision in the fall to not really do anything with it at that time. So that's why maybe October is maybe a better time frame than summer, that we've talked this week.
Right, that sounds good to me. Yeah.
Any other questions, comments on the tentative agenda?
I have a random comment. So one news item that recently came up was that Chanza River Institute is withdrawing support for the primary school in Palo Alto. While that's sad and unfortunate, they also announced that I think they're going to be taking some of those funds and reversing it as the $15 million grant towards Bellhaven and that surrounding communities. So I don't know what that actually is, but it might be an opportunity for the city to apply for some grants if that actually turns into something. But yeah, maybe build some pickleball courts with the grant or something. But
yeah, thank you for bringing that up. Saw that notice as well, and we'd be very interested to see what it is they have in mind. There weren't a lot of details in the news report I saw. But,
yeah.
If there is grant funding available to support the community of Bellhaven, I would be very interested in what that is.
Platinum. Fully sustainable.
Try to stick a solar panel.
$50 million range.
Okay, would any commissioner like to make a short report on items of interest to the entire commission? I'd like to thank Vicky Go.
I think you said the last time we come up with a goal,
Yeah, so
not to leave it spot, sorry.
no. So I guess the continuation of the discussion last time, I suggested that the Parks and Recreation Commission come up with some material contribution on an annual basis. And I guess one suggestion was hosting a 5K with the city's support. So I just sent an email to Trisha recently, like sketching out what my individual vision was. And I think we need to talk about that, obviously. So if that's something of interest to the commission, folks are interested in pursuing, we can start with that or consider more ideas. But I think there's like ground technicalities in just jumping on the thread about what we can do. But that's where we are. Trisha, do you have a date on what the next steps are?
Yeah, thank you for sending the email. I think you definitely take that into consideration and look at kind of the scope of work that the staff is looking to do this year and in the near future to see if that's something that we can kind of take on with support from the commission. And that would theoretically fall under like an outdoor activity. So if staff is available and we have the bandwidth, that staff would support that effort. So there
Yeah,
has been a little chat about a race. So
yeah, and certainly, it doesn't have to happen tomorrow, and it doesn't have to just be our idea and then you guys execute on it, it's just not fair, so I think, whoever,
Sure.
the commissions are. I think we're willing to put in some significant effort to actually make it happen as well, even if it's our.
Well, before we leave the topic, though, because I do recall it's coming up last month, the monthly to provide. One practice that commissions commonly will do for like a one-time project where they want to work on it, would be to form an ad hoc subcommittee. Right, so that would be fewer than a quorum of the members, so 3 or fewer members. Because then you're more at liberty to just get together and meet and talk about it and work on the project without having to post agendas and all the noticing. And then the subcommittee would just report back to the full commission with any progress reports, any guidance that they might need. So if there's general interest of the full commission to explore a project of this type, maybe the one that you're proposing, then my recommendation would be to form an ad hoc subcommittee so that then, those conversations can happen in between the monthly meetings.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, so, I don't know, it's worthwhile to form one now, you said 3?
we have to agenda.
Yeah. I don't
Oh,
think
wait,
we can.
It's not exactly ad hoc, I guess.
Bias to action.
You'd have to put it on the agenda, but you could, since we're talking about the agenda calendar, you can put it on, or just talking.
Well, I want to be very respectful of the Brown Act, but also not led too technical of an interpretation of that get in the way of getting work done. So if there's I think I saw 2 commissioners, maybe 3, who I'm not sure who would be interested in at least having a conversation. If that's voiced now, there could be informal conversations as long as you just limit it to no more than 3 members. And then at a later meeting, you could like formally create the subcommittee, but there's nothing to stop 3 or fewer of you from like, hey, let's get together and talk about this a little more and flesh it out, so that when we come back, we've got more proposals. So I just want to put that out there. So you don't have to wait necessarily, because I thought I saw some people are immediately expressing interest.
So, I don't know, maybe Tricia, whenever you could formulate a response, you could just email myself and.
Sure.
Documents.
Absolutely.
Is there a third? Interested in a conversation?
I mean, sure, but I think I would like to give the people who aren't here also an opportunity if they would like to participate as well, if it's something that's on their passion.
But I think it would be important to say for the commission, we approve that there should be a committee to discuss this. And I think we'll take out those general agreements. This is a good thing for a subcommittee to look at.
That's what it seems like.
Yeah.
So just so it's clear, it sounds like, Lee, Van Buren, Dawkins, are kind of informally looking to maybe, connect with Tricia, maybe before the next meeting.
If we could send an email out to the members who aren't here to see if they're interested as well.
I can do that, yeah. Absolutely.
Well, it has to be limited to 3.
Well, then I would.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Maybe just get started with the conversation now, and then you can bring the topic back onto the agenda. And then if there's a change up in the composition.
Yeah.
At that point, then you can do it.
Sure.
Discussion? Okay, I would add next take this opportunity to thank my fellow commissioners and staff, Sean, Nick, Tricia, Ashley, for your just constant support over the last 4 years. It's been illuminating. It's been educational and I've enjoyed it very much. And I hope there's an opportunity when I have time in the future to serve again. Thank you very much. And with that, we're very subtly take this and slap.
Oh, you've got it.
No. And so the meeting is adjourned at 7:40.